station and gallery too, so we'll hold on until April.
Okay.
Should I take it off just to do remarks or? Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome. Okay, so welcome. Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to you if you're joining us here in person. Also, we're live streaming, so welcome to those of you who are joining us online. And also, if you're joining us later on by watching the broadcast later. We're just glad that you're here and glad that you could be joining us. My name is Alyssa Farron, and I'm the director and curator here at Dunlop Art Gallery. And I'm honored to introduce you to our guest today, Tīná Gúyáńí, so Glenna Cardinal and Seth Cardinal Dodginghorse. So I'd like to acknowledge that this land, we're gathered on Treaty 4 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, Saulteaux, and the homeland of the Métis. I really do want to thank Seth and Glenna for accepting our invitation to present their work here at the gallery. I haven't had the chance yet to get to know each of you very well, but hopefully in time we'll get to chat. But I just want to comment on the themes that you're going to be presenting today and that you're exploring in your exhibition, themes of loss of land and displacement. I think those are themes that resonate quite deeply with me. As someone who's Black and of Caribbean descent, the themes of loss and displacement from land are ones that have affected my communities for many generations as well. So I want to say thank you for exploring these themes or helping us to think through these themes further from your perspectives, through your perspectives. And this conversation, as I said, it's going to be live, or it is currently being live streamed. So if you are watching us online, there will be a question and answer period towards the end of the talk. So if you have questions and you're watching us online, just add your questions in the comment section on the right-hand side of your screen. And at the end, we'll make sure that there's time to respond to your comments and questions with Seth and Glenna. Okay, now I have a list of thank yous before I pass things off to Thomas, who will then introduce Seth and Glenna. I'd like to thank many individuals who have contributed to this exhibition and event today. Christina Reynolds, who wrote the essay. Where's Christina? Okay, maybe she's back there. I'd like to thank Cora Coffee for providing food. Thomas Johnson, of course, who's curator of this exhibition. John Cody, Jesse Dishaw, Eric Hill, Wendy Pearce, Sarah Pittman, Aisha Mosin, Margaret Basai, Tai Sang, and Shamim Agamina. And thank you to all of you for being here on a Saturday afternoon. So now I'm going to pass things off to Thomas, who will introduce Seth and Glenna more fully.
Thanks so much, Alyssa. Yes, it's my great pleasure to have Seth and Glenna here. And I'll also acknowledge I'm originally from Treaty 7 territory, Okinstas, and this is where I've first was able to meet Seth and Glenna. And also originally through the context of the Calgary Public Library. And I encourage you to ask questions of Glenna about that, but I will pass out these cards. These are official library cards that Glenna made for the Calgary Public Library. And she's also produced work there. And so some of the work it's a variation of what you'll see in the gallery, parts of it. Then we've also had the sharing of the work in the development of this. There's been many years that we've been working towards this project. And we met with Christina on your land and to talk about this project and to talk about the displacement that occurred and the way that this has been explored through your work in a really powerful and I think very opening way. We also, through the Dunlop and during COVID, have had the opportunity to work collaboratively with you online. Through various projects, we had performances online and also collaborations with artists, Johanna Householder and Judith Price, in which there was performances. And there's a really beautiful piece. I just want to think about the work that you both do. There was a musical chairs performance that they performed with their family at the upper gallery of Truck Gallery. And in that performance, every time you sat down and the music stopped, no chairs were removed. And so the game and the dance continued on and on. I just think a very simple but very profound action, and I think that's really imbued in the work you're doing. So now I'm going to allow you to speak more to your practice, and if you have any questions, please, we'll leave space for that as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Thomas. Can folks in the back hear me? Awesome. Yeah, thank you everyone for showing up, and thank you Thomas and everyone at the gallery and at the library here. Like, everyone has been so amazing. I don't know how long you've been here. I feel like I've been here for like a few weeks now, but I think it's only been like 4 days or something. But yeah, everything's been so great, and I feel very grateful to be here in Treaty 4. Myself and my mom are from Treaty 7. And we both grew up just outside of Calgary on the Tsuut'ina Nation Reserve. That's where I grew up and also where I come from. And I don't know if I said my name, but my name is Seth Cardinal Dodginghorse. And yeah, I'll let my mom introduce herself. This is my mom, by the way.
Tansei, Glenna Cardinal, Natsiga-san. Oceania, Satellite Cree Nation, and Tsuut'ina Nation. Notui, Willard Cardinal, Nimosompan, Rastus Cardinal, Japan, Albert Cardinal, Tadana Stada, Size, Glenna Cardinal, Ata, gúyáńí, tīná, Tsuut'ina, and that's Dear Road Woman in Tsuut'ina language. And Ethel Jacobs, Ata, Isu, Elsie Jacobs, Ata, Isu, Winnie Bull, Ata, Isu, Sarah Big Tune Ata, Isu, Woman Holding Woman Ata. And I named all the generations of Tsuut'ina grandmothers that I could go back into and find some history about them, and as far as it's written for me, those grandmothers that came from the land that we are part of. I have 2 sons. I have Seth, and I have a younger son, Kateri, and it's very important for me to be here beside my son, because this was nothing I ever planned in all my life, was to do this kind of work. It came from a different place. It came from a place that many of us carry, but it comes from the heart of who we are, and acknowledging that connection to land, to having that connection that sometimes is overlooked. As people that come from the reserve land, it's a lot for us, it was a different journey and how we came to be where we are today and doing this work. A lot of the strength I have gotten is from my son and wanting him to speak about what happened and to not be erased, not have our history erased, and not have who we are as Indigenous women erased, which often happens. So with the work that we brought here, I feel like it honors the land, the animals, our relatives, the Six Nations and the animals, and it honors our grandmothers that came from that land. Go ahead, son.
She gave me the look to take over, so I'll talk for a bit now. To kind of give you like a brief history about the kind of like what led up to us creating the work that we have made that's in this show. It kind of goes back to, I'll kind of give like a brief, I'll try and like summarize. It's a pretty like long story with many details, and I'll try to condense it as much as I can. But my mom raised me on Tsuut'ina, which is just outside the city of Calgary, but because of a incident that happened to us, you know, the city actually runs through the reserve now. And in 2014, on the land that my mom raised me, and this is the land that my mom was raised by her mom and going back, we were displaced without our consent by the construction of the Southwest Calgary Ring Road, which is, if you're in Calgary, it has a different name. It has it's called Tsuut'ina Trail or Stony Trail, and essentially this was like a multi-lane highway that was planned for many decades. So it's a part of my family's history. Like, you know, it was always something that was kind of talked about, where people on the news would be like, you know, this road is going to be built, it's going to improve traffic flow, but no one ever really mentioned anyone living there. It was just talking about, you know, something to improve, you know, commerce and all of those things. So, you know, that was something that was kind of like it was something that kind of went throughout the generations of my family, of like kind of having this fear of like, you know, people are talking about this project, but they never talk about us. They never ask questions about who lives there. And we lived on, you know, this is on the reserve, which kind of borders the city. Or at the time before the road was built, it bordered the city. And then in 2014, eventually, we were removed from the land, and the construction of the road took over. And a lot of the things that led up to it was, you know, because of things such as the Indian Act and like, you know, Indian Act chief and councils, band councils, kind of like the power that happens when, you know, it's kind of connected to the agency that, you know, my mom and other women have encountered through things like the Indian Act, like losing, you know, as a woman, losing your autonomy and losing your sense of agency. And that's kind of something that's connected to why we named this show what it's called, which is Old Agency. And there's a bunch of work that talks about that. I think that's kind of the main theme of the show. And, you know, this thing ended up happening, and I started my first year of university in 2014 as we were packing up and moving, and this was ongoing. And I went to art school and I started making work about this. And it just, you know, it just kind of like happened and came through me, and it was me processing grief and trauma, you know, as it was happening. And then eventually in 2019, in the last year of my semester at school, like living on the reserve, I don't know how it is on some reserves, but in Treaty 7, it's kind of like homes are very close to one another. And so my mom and my grandma just like live, I don't know, like 20, it feels like 20 feet from my house. So I came home from school and I went into my mom's house, and my mom was like, Seth, I want to be an artist. And I was like, okay. And she's like, let's make some art together. And I was like, okay. I never grew up making anything with my mom, you know, like we're both creative in different ways, but it wasn't the type of, up until that point, it wasn't something that we ever really did together, you know, like I would just hang out in my room and make things, or like, it was something that's very separate. And then I was like, okay. And then we were trying to think of like a name for, you know, this, I always call it a collective, but I had someone tell me that it's not a collective, it's a duo, because there's only two of us. So I guess this duo. And
You're not counting,
oh wait, do you want to take
you're
over?
not counting the ancestors that are with us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you should just still call it a collective.
No, that's a good deep answer. But like, yeah, then we kind of immediately just started working together, and we applied to do residency at the Banff Center, and that was the first time we ever actually sat there together. We shared a studio and we just started making stuff, and we didn't really know what it was. And one of those pieces, it's actually the first thing we made together, is in the gallery, and you'll see a orange wall with a hide hanging in front of it. And that was the first thing we ever made together. And that piece, you know, I was doing a lot of research on Tsuut'ina history and spending time with elders and relatives in my community, and I was learning lots about like winter counts or like war paintings. And you know, I was thinking, I was like, you know, no one in our community has done one in a while. Like it's been a while since we've made one, and you know, before this, it was kind of like more commonplace, you know, for people to make these things. And so I was like, you know, I talked to some elders. I was like, I really want to make one. Can I make one? Like, do I have to go through, like, what's the process? And then this elder was like, just go home and paint it. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, just go home and paint it. And I was like, okay. So then I was thinking of what to do. And when me and my mom were at the Banff Center, we were doing a lot of research on images that are in our family, which is, I think it's also on those library cards, and in the show you'll see on these hides images of a woman and her baby, and that's my great grandmother and my great great grandmother in those images. And you know, my mom was like, I want to honor the land, so let's use these images in a beautiful way that, like, you know, puts them on this animal hide. So my mom had this brilliant idea to silk screen on the hide, and that, I feel like that's a really nice thing, because my mom has ideas and I have ideas and I have skills, and she has skills that neither of us have on our own. And that's when we kind of like come together and challenge one another to make things. So we ended up printing these images, and I wanted to paint a story on one of the hides. I'll tell this story and then I'll let my mom take over, so I don't hog up all of the airspace. But like,
I just gotta correct something.
yeah. So then I really wanted to paint this story, and this story is painted on the hide in the gallery, and it ended up leading to us having our duo / collective name, which is tīná, which means deer road in Tsuut'ina. And my mom had told me a story about when the first time after we were moved, probably 2 years after, so in 2016, you know, with the construction and everything just like happened so fast. So where our home was and the land that we both knew and grew up on, and you know, this is like a land that has like family graves and all of these different things. Like we really knew the land, and then one day the trees were just gone, like every single tree. And it was, you know, it was kind of like done without like ceremony or anything. So it's kind of like, you know, waking up and like the, you know, the library is gone. And And then, my mom had seen a deer standing there, and that deer was my mom and that deer had this moment where they were both there witnessing their home being gone. And the way my mom described this and everything, I was like, I want to paint your story on the side. I want to honor you, and that's like your war story. So I want to paint it for you, and you commemorate this thing that you saw and witnessed and survived. And so I made that painting, and kind of historically, I'm not too sure if there were paintings made by women in the past or paintings that commemorated women's stories, because the paintings that do survive that are in museums, I'm not too sure if it was an intentional erasure by the people who collected them, or they only, someone told them that, this man over here is the bravest, so they only like collected those ones, but they overlooked a lot of things. So, I also talked to like elders, and I was like, can I paint this story about my mom because I really want to? And he's like, yeah, just go home and paint it, like whatever. It's not that, I really wanted to make sure that I was respecting like elders in my culture, but also like, I think that sometimes there can be issues of like, because of like colonialism, of, misogyny that comes into traditional practices. But so I painted that, and then me and my mom were gonna do our first show together, and we just like kept making work, and we were like, what do we call this show? So then my mom was like, let's call it tīná, which means deer road, which is kind of based around that painting and that story. And then we ended up just using that name to name ourselves. And then, that's a little brief history about us. And one of the pieces that kind of like kicked off everything that, has led to us making work together still and being, in this room with you folks. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think a little bit different than I remember. But I didn't say I want to be an artist. I think it was Seth said, Mom, you're an artist. And I had some work, and he was 2017, I had some work, and he's just like, we're gonna apply for this residency in Banff, and maybe we'll go together and work. And then I just like, he said, go downstairs, put your stuff together, I'll come and do a professional shot. And we had kind of an area to photograph, and I was just like, wow, okay. And I sat there, and it couldn't come to me. I couldn't make it how I wanted it, and I needed to process like what an artist actually does, and I just I sat there and cried, and then I was like, Seth, I can't do this. And then he just like helped me through it, and just kindly, gently spoke to me, and I just it didn't come together till 2018 when we were in Banff. But I'm very honored that my son did this painting, and it's made with natural pigments. So the pigments he got down in the Blackfeet Nation. The other part is that story with the deer is, man, that's still a real hard story to tell. And seeing him driving up, because we had to pass our old home. We live with my mom's Tsuut'ina, and she got a new home, but she won't live alone, and she said, come live with me. And we had to pass there, and Seth went to school in the city, and just to come upon like just the trees gone, just the trees are gone, and there's just chips and chips over like your berry bushes, over where your sweat lodge was, and it was just like so such that reality of like thinking, they didn't even tell me they were doing this. They didn't tell me anything. I wasn't prepared to see that, and I just parked in the ditch, and I just I stood out there crying, we didn't get that ceremony. We didn't have anything that prepared us. Nobody prepared us for this. And just to see that deer come out, and he was just like standing there looking, and it was just like I was throwing up, I was there. It was just like a whole physical experience. I saw all this that people were driving by, nobody stopped to see if I was okay. And it was just like really a time that that was like making that connection, because they say, what are you mourning? You should be done mourning. You shouldn't feel bad. Did you get money? You know, did you get paid? And no, you know, I never got paid. I never got a nuisance fee. We never got anything. We just got told to leave. Go start your life somewhere else. Go to a woman's shelter was one thing I got. When I went to the provincial government and I said, things aren't right here, they said, go to a woman's shelter. And as a social worker, that really hurt me. So along the way, you go through lateral violence, and you begin to see that, and you want your child to grow up strong. You want them to walk that red road. You want them to walk that path of ceremony. You want them to walk that path of wellness. So I had to too. I had to be there and be strong, and it was really important that Seth created his work, and it was like an outlet. It was him processing, you know, the life journey we were on now. And never have I always, I kind of look like I'm really strong and tough, but I come in and I said, it's okay to have that little bit of fear in what you do. It's good, you know, and I push through these things.
Yeah, I think like for myself, like the whole time I was starting to make work and go to school, I never collaborated with anyone. And kind of the main reason for that was because the work I was making was so like specific to my lived experience that I also felt protective of my lived experience, so that, you know, I didn't feel that it was something that I could share or trust others to work with me to make this work. And then when I started working with my mom and making art, I think that was kind of the basis of it too. Was I think we both had a lot that we wanted to express, but we also didn't want to feel alone. And in, you know, making things together, it was, you know, like I don't even think I second guessed when we were planning to work together. Like it was just like, okay, yeah, let's make something. And I think that's been like the best thing. I don't know. I never grew up imagining I'd be making art with my mom and like traveling as much with my mom as I do, you know? And it's actually been like amazing. And like, I love it. I've learned a lot about like collaborating with others and doing things. And like now, because we've been working since 2019, and you know that kind of feels like last year in a way, but it's also like, I don't know, was it like almost 5 years now or something? I can see that like all of the things that the best things that I've made are all the things that I've made with my mom when it comes to like the visual art side of things. And it's been really nice because I also look back at that, and I can remember being in school, like I went to school in the city, and I was one of the few Indigenous students, and you know, like I did feel alone a lot because I would spend a lot of time alone in my studio at the school, just working on things, and then, you know, throughout the week presenting that work to my classmates, who the majority of them were in First Nations as well. And you know, that I did that for like 5 years of just like making things alone, showing things to a group of people who also didn't really understand the work and also didn't come from a different lived experience. But you know, that, you know, doing that for 5 years can feel very like lonely. And then being able to work with my mom and like also meet other artists and people has been really nice. And yeah, like it I feel like I've learned a lot working with my mom, because it's just like, I don't know, we kind of grew up fighting each other a lot, or I grew up, we're like, my little brother is like the very like sweet one who gets along with my mom well, and they can just like hang out and like go have a good day. But me and my mom growing up just like clash a lot. We're very like, we like challenging one another. And now we like make work together, and the only time we ever like really get intense about things is like, you know, I'm like, this should be pink, and my mom's like, I hate pink, I don't want to do pink. And then we just like have these like moments of like, I don't know, it's nice to just like, I don't know, have clash with the parent and have tension in making art. And I feel like outside of that, just like, I don't know, I love my mom so much, and making all of this like work. I think I had a moment when we finished installing the other day where I was just like, it feels so nice to be in this space. And like Thomas, who curated the show, really like helped choose what was in the show, and was like, you know, these works should be in here. And I think there was times where me and my mom were kind of like, I don't know if they should, like, we'll see. And then, you know, Thomas was like, yeah, they should be in the show. So we like also trusted Thomas, and we were like, yeah, let's just do it. And being in this space, you know, it's a lot of, some of the work is kind of intense. It's about things, you know, just like intense lived experiences, but it also kind of it just feels nice to be in there. Like it feels like it, I don't know, it feels like quiet in a way. And sometimes when we've been making the work, like it can feel very like intense and loud in, you know, in your head and your body, to like be making something as, you know, you're like packing up and leaving your home, and you know, you're seeing people on the news talk about it and stuff. And it feels nice to be able to look at the work that me and my mom have made and like feel peace. I think actually like the other day was one of the first times I really like realized that, where I was just like, I feel a sense of peace, and I feel good in what me and my mom have like tried to say about who we are and who our family is and the land that we come from. How do you feel, Mom?
No, that was good. Really good job. Well said. I really can't add anything more to that. Yeah, it really came together here. And I think it would be really cool if we just like had questions. Like, I think that would be easier for us. For me, what do you think? Okay.
Let's do it. Anyone have any questions?
Seth, I wanted to just ask you about the film that's playing in the gallery.
Okay.
So there's a film that's playing in the gallery. I think it's about 42 minutes long, but I think that's the most recent work that we've made. And essentially, my mom started doing her master's program. Maybe do you want to talk about the master's program you did a little?
Oh, yeah. In June 2023, I graduated from Blue Quills University in St. Paul, Alberta. And I graduated with my Indigenous Master of Social Work. And there was 23 of us was the first cohort. So it's kind of a pilot project for across Canada. And our main themes were land, language, and ceremony. And I went back to Blue Quills when it was a residential school that my dad went to. And when I told my dad, I said, I'm going to go to a program there and get my master's. And I said, what do you think? I got accepted. And my dad said, no, don't go. Because he still carried those hard feelings. And being his eldest daughter, I don't listen to him. I challenge him more, and he's like, don't go, Glenna. And I was just like, Dad, I'm an adult now, I can go. But it took a lot to go there and to be in that building where I eventually learned that I had an aunt that never came home from school. And my dad's eldest sister had died and was buried there. So I wanted this film like Seth is like New York or Montreal, and he's traveling, he's in Vancouver. And I finally said, Seth, you have time, come with me, film this. And I didn't know if it was my capstone presentation I was going to use it for. And then we kind of just like took the film, and Seth was in the building and made recordings.
Yeah, I remember my mom was just like, just come to the school with me and film me. Like, I have an old Super 8 camera. I'm like I don't know. People often tell me I have an old soul, which I kind of believe because I'm a nerd for old technology. Because like most of my friends are like, why are you shooting on film? Like, what are you doing with the Super 8 camera? And that's like the stuff that I tend to gravitate towards. So I had this Super 8 camera, which also didn't shoot any sound. It's kind of like silent. And my mom was like, come film me at the school. And we didn't really like plan anything. I just went there and followed her around with the camera. And I was kind of like experiencing her being there at this former residential school that is now like an Indigenous run. And I filmed, and then they last spring, or no, 2 springs ago, they did a ground penetrating radar search to search for anomalies in the ground. And that was a very, like, I lived with my grandfather who went to that school, and it was a pretty intense time because, for a lot of us and a lot of people who are survivors, it really opened up a lot publicly. They were seeing it on the news and hearing it on the radio, whereas that wasn't the case before. So being with my grandfather, I saw how that experience was for him. And, he's an old native cowboy. He just travels to rodeos and kind of keeps to himself. And then they were doing the search that day, and I asked people at the school if I could go there and film and document it. And I wasn't really thinking about, the whole time me and my mom were filming, we were thinking about making it a movie that would be shown in theaters, and that was really neat for people to be like consumed. The only audience we were thinking about was our family, and my grandfather was the main one. Was thinking, if we can make this and it can be something my grandfather can watch. And, you know, if he doesn't like it, or if he doesn't feel like we can share it or anything, then we won't. You know, it's really up to him. And then, you know, as we're filming, we asked my grandpa, we were like, are you gonna come to the church? You know, it's a pretty important moment in history, this ongoing history, and he was like, no, I'm not. And we were like, okay, you know, we don't question those things. We just, you know, his answer is his answer. And then the next day we drove up there, and then he was there, and he wanted to be there, and he let me film him. You know, I was like, can I film you? And I filmed him, and I captured a lot of joy. Like, you know, eventually he showed this film to him, and he actually ended up loving it and said that, you know, it was okay to share with others. And so if you watch the film in there and you see an old Native man, that's my grandpa who went to the school there, and you'll see him outside of the school, but he's like smiling, and you'll see him on his family's land. I think in the last 10 minutes of the film, I'll spoil my movie or our movie, but it's him going back to the land that he was taken from to go to school. And it's almost 70 years later that he's on that land. And I was filming him, and originally I was supposed to be filming my mom on the land, but my grandpa showed up and hijacked the movie and became a movie star, which is I've never seen happen. He's a very like shy, hilarious guy, but he showed up and he was like, "Oh, do you want to get a shot of me next to this tree?" He started like directing me. I was like, "Okay," and he's like, "Okay, maybe if you go over there and like film me from there." I've never seen the side of him, so I just like filmed him as he was going there and being there, and it's you know, that's probably something that I'm always going to remember, is that feeling of being there, and him, you know, letting me and my mom see him like he's glowing in it. And I was able to film that, and you can see in it that he's glowing, like you can see his light. And yeah, that film, it also talks about my mom going to the school, and it talks about my grandfather's sister who passed away at the school and went missing there. And we kind of put these things together, and we really wanted it to be done in a way that it wasn't educational to settlers, and it wasn't made to be a film about residential school that was teaching people something. And if anything, it was a document of our family, and because we made it so that it was really for the comfort of my grandfather, it really changed how things were shared in the movie, you know, because it could have been a completely different film. It could have been a film that was like, this is the school, these are the sad facts about things that happened. You know, it could have like really been very just like talking about things, and it's very easy to go down that path of like expressing a lot of like hard emotions. But we somehow like did this, and I feel that we captured a lot of joy in it, and it's really about like, you know, some hard things happen to us, but also like us being alive is beautiful, and you can see that in there. And yeah, the film is called Her Name, and kind of the main thing is kind of figuring out through my mom's research, is figuring out what her name was, my grandfather's sister who went missing there, because even he couldn't remember her name. And spoiler alert, we watched the film, my mom ends up finding what her name was. And, you know, there's a lot of like healing in that. And yeah, that's a little bit about the film. Thank you for your question.
Oh yeah, Well, I know that you both have your own sort of individual practices too, like with furniture making and with music. And I wonder, does that influence your work together at all? Or, yeah.
I think so. Like I think it's like I think even in the way we installed the film in the gallery, I did the film score, like I did the music for the film, and we're trying to think of like how to have seating for it, and my mom does a lot of like beautiful work with furniture, and that's kind of the work that she was doing when we started making art together, because she was making a lot of like really beautiful furniture with like Pendleton fabrics and like painting and reupholstering things. And she was just making those things and giving them to people. It wasn't a business for her. It I mean, I think you should make money, mom, but she was just like making these beautiful things and like have friends come over or someone and they're like, wow, that would look so nice in my home. And my mom's like, okay, take it to your home. That's yours now. And I think like the work that my mom does with furniture and all of that, it's about making like home beautiful. And I think like the way my mom is and the way my mom works and the things that she does really does like influence me and everything I do and like the outlook I have on life. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add?
Not really. Sorry, I just like blanked out. No, yeah, we do things, we also like, yeah, we do have private, like our own private practice in that. So, I completed, a Cheney Wenjack legacy space too, as well. And just using Pendleton blankets and like, instead of putting paint on the wall, it's like using it on the wall and making. I think it's just like that thing where I wanted home to be beautiful again, because we had an older home that I grew up in, and it was one of the older homes on the res, and if I could, I'd be back at that home. If I could, I would be back on that land. And I didn't take the rocks. Like I remember first base was a rock. How come I didn't take it? And the berry bushes. And I just I didn't get to gather all those things from the land that I should have, because I was just in survival mode. And you go into survival mode and you're speaking and nobody's hearing you. Like, where am I gonna go? And it was just like, I started creating like shawls. Like you can see I have a shawl there. And then I saw the picture and I just remembered my great grandmother, and she wore a shawl. And so it kind of came to me, and I have like all these beautiful shawls that I hand did, and it was just like my way of healing and making home feel beautiful again, and just and then when we're so fortunate to get to work together, and we get to put this together, and like we don't always agree, we challenge each other, and it's like, and about the toilet paper thing, and I just like, talk to me tomorrow. So
I did an art piece where I printed images on toilet paper in a gallery, and like people could take pieces of the toilet paper. And in 2020 I did the protest that ended up becoming very public against the road that went through there, and then some of my own relatives that are in the or were in the chief and council at the time on on the res put out a whole statement kind of condemning everything I said and my lived experience. So my way of processing that was like printing it on toilet paper. And, you know, I remember being like pretty upset at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna print this on toilet paper and I'm gonna go TP the band office and stuff like that. And and then I was like, okay, like I'll just like put this in the gallery. But I remember when I was telling my mom the idea, I was like, I really want to put this on toilet paper, and we have an upcoming show, and I need to get this out. And my mom was like, why do you want to do that? And I was like, well, it's kind of funny. And my mom was like, I don't get it. And I was like, okay, just think about it, think about it for a few days. And then we kind of got back together, and then my mom was like, okay, I get it, let's do it. But we often have times where we're kind of like, she has an idea and I'm like, I don't really understand it, but I think what's good is that we aren't just like, no, like, we like to think about things before. Yeah, I've learned a lot about communication with my mom through like making art. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
I think one of the really neat things is seeing Jessie here. And Jessie is one of the people that I first began my practice, and Jessie gave me my first show. He curated the window at the Esker. And it was amazing, Jessie. Thank you. It was like it opened my eyes, and it was you. And I just remember sitting there crying because I couldn't say it in words a lot of the times, but you understood, and you just like talked me through it. And it was the piece called Mourning Home. And like, I'm mourning something. What am I mourning? And I was mourning home. I was mourning the land. And you got it, and you just like pulled it out of me, and I was crying all that time, and it just came together. And I just wanted to say thank you, Jessie. I really appreciate that.
Shout out, Jessie.
Thanks so much, everyone. This was a really wonderful conversation. I'm just encourage you to continue it informally, and for those online, you can learn more about the exhibition on the Regina Library's website, and also on Dunlop Learning, where you can also see Christine Reynolds' wonderful essay. But yeah, thanks again, and please enjoy the exhibition.
Thank you.